Hello, good day. It's been a while since I've talked mostly to myself, but put it online so maybe one or two brains and souls could get some inspiration out of some of these talks. And today I'm gonna speak my mind on some issues regarding to the belief in a faith and the belief in heavens and how that affects also politics. And I would like to start with a concrete story. I've just been out listening to a very known scholar speaking about Israel and the Bible and how the predictions there shows that what's happening is all part of a bigger plan that God has and is revealing itself very strongly. And I listened with a big curiosity. Of course, the scholar is a theologian Christian from the Lutheran Church, but basically speaking out of the Old Testament, the book of Jeremiah and Ezekiel, about the prophecies regarding Jerusalem, the Jewish return to the homeland, and how all that affects the second coming of the Christ and the 1,000 year of heavenly life on earth. Now, I'm a critic in my own mind and my own education. I've been focused a lot on finding points of lack of logic in what people are saying. And I pay close attention to that. I also try to compare them to other religions and other ideas when I can and to the limit of my knowledge. And it's not all that bad knowledge I've got on several issues. So one of the things I noticed immediately was that the guy was giving a speech um, on the faith. It's like he's there for the congregation to uplift their spirit and their minds and their like loyalty to the idea that he is speaking to and the coming of Christ and the waiting for that time to happen. So he didn't go into many details in the beginning. But the people who sat there were very happy about it because they were there just to get that kind of inspiration more than the details because they already are believers. I'm not. I'm not the same kind of simple believer that they want to be or want others also to be. And that's why I irritate people. The same goes when I have listened to lectures from Muslim scholars and I can point out there is something missing in this logic or in that way of presenting stuff. And I've also listened online mostly to some Jewish scholars and the way they present things, and you can immediately see the psychology behind the way they speak and what they are trying to emphasize. So I don't know. I'm cursed and blessed with that at the same time, being able to look critically at what people are speaking about. So back to the topic, I asked him a question about politics and how this belief he's carrying. He is from the line of the church that could be called Zionist Christians. That means they believe that in order for the Christ to return, the Jewish has to gather back again in the Holy Land, and when they do, and they get their time there and their power, they will turn their face to the Christ, to the Messiah, who will return and lead them as a king and as a savior. And so many of that type of Christians, of course, they are opposed by other Christians from their own churches as well, who does not see that line of understanding so true from the same Bible, actually. that's, that's what makes me always perplexed, but always in respect for people, but perplexed inside my mind and taking it a bit like, oh, this is a never ending story of people believing something and opposed by people from their own faith reading the text in different ways. Anyhow, those who believe in that, they want to work to help the Jewish gather again and get their land back. And so I asked him how much his faith and ideas and the reading of the Bible impacts his organization's political work and activism. I was positively surprised that he he didn't want to answer in plenum. He said, I will come to the coffee table later and give you a deeper explanation. He kept it on the surface because many of the people who were attending, in his own opinion, I guess, were not so deep-minded. So he wanted to just keep it to the faith and keep the congregation together. And this is such sociological issue that we know from the study of sociology that religious people always do. They The speakers of every and each religion around the world, they have this one goal of like making the congregation, the people, the followers, what can you say, flow into the belief and grow, and stay loyal to that faith, to that group. Some would say there could be some power intentions behind it, economical intentions behind it. All that is very true as well for us humans, because whenever we gather and we gather a crowd, we want to gain something out of it mostly, and so does these people. Um, they want a bigger group because they get more influence, they get more money, they can come out and give more speeches. That's much better than being alone and lonely walker in the world, as some of these Indian gurus and philosophers who does not want and oppose groups and gatherings, because they say each belief is individual and each seeking of meaning in life, also seeking God in life, is individual. You have to find it alone. We can gather, but as individuals, not as a group-minded people, and think as a group. While most of the people I have met from the religious groups, both Christians, some Jewish, and many Muslims, and many Christians as well, they go from being individual to becoming group thinkers and part of that group. So whatever the leader, the guy with authority who's speaking God's word and the love of Christ is saying, that's the truth. Whatever the imam is saying, that's the truth, and so on and so on. This is also true in politics. A group that is secular could also have the same dynamics. Like when Chairman Mao is speaking, nobody else opposes, and you keep spreading his message all over the world as if it was a new religion. And the same goes for other organizers of people in ideologies. So the same, like what could you say, sociologically and psychologically, the same mechanisms keep repeating. So I see it very clearly when I sit and listen to these kind of talks. I look at people and I see, okay, these people are not thinking. They are just swallowing and taking everything in because they want to have that belief. They find faith and relaxation in just being like everybody else. Don't think, don't ask critical questions, don't be too opposing, don't stick out, in other words. This is the most dangerous things to people who are highly driven and motivated by finding the truth and also being individually strong. And I believe I'm one of these people, even though I'm not on the top of any list on that kind of thinking, but I can like manage to distinguish. So I asked him that question. He wouldn't really answer. Then I asked him, he said, I will come and explain at the coffee table. I was positively surprised when he said that his organization is not actively in the politics. What can you say? Are not active in politics. They do not believe that they have to support whatever the Jews are doing and whatever the Israelis are doing in order to make the Christ come. It's not a forced thing. They more like kind of observe the signs. I had my doubts whether that was the whole truth or just part of it, because we know that many Zionist Christians, they want to force the coming of Christ as a salvation of the world, and I believe why. It's the passion, of course, that many people carry for the Yeshua, the Messiah, the very special story that he had in history, and his back coming is also confirmed by the Muslim belief, and it's also in the Jewish texts. And so you have these messianic Christians, Jewish people. I asked him about those. I said, how do you define the Messianic Jews? And are they people who just believe in Christ as the Savior and King, and that's it? Or do they go all the way? And if they go all the way, why do they still keep calling them Messiah Jews? They should be called Christians, because if you go to the belief that he is the God or part of God or has been a part of God's soul and given as a god. The Jews don't believe that, and they oppose the Christians for saying that as something that is totally adverse to the belief in the one true God who does not divide himself and give himself part of his soul to be killed or anything else or become human in that shape or form. So when you call them Messianic Jewish, Messianic Jewish, uh, that means they go to accept and understand that the Christ is who he is as a savior, as a king, and they shouldn't have rejected him, but taking him in as another good prophet and king in the line of David, the one that David told about that there will be a person from his own family line who would be the king. And that's the division between being a Jew, Messianic Jew, and just being a Christian. And he said, I will give you an answer when I come to the coffee table. He laughed and he smiled very positively because I think it intrigued him to get these questions. We had a good long talk, about an hour on that coffee table, which um, I knew later irritated some other people because they thought I was just wanting to discuss with him. But the guy he was a big scholar, theologian, has written several books. He was very thrilled and understanding. We had a very good talk, and that's why I sometimes see that intellectual people with big minds and understanding who have read perspectives and ideas and can think, really think, they have respect for people who think, much more respect than they have for a million followers. And as they say, people who have intellectual tendencies, they recognize each other and they have this deep respect for the views that they hold, each of them. So we had a good talk about that, but that didn't change a lot in my understanding of religion being used to verify or strengthen or give a green light for some political agendas, and maybe it could be genocides, it could be a displacement of people, it could be anything. And that's a big danger in any religion, and especially in the biblical religion, because the Bible has this tendency to is very open to interpretation in different ways. If you've ever opened the Bible and the New Testament, you will see that you understand why the Christian groups get so many diverse ideas and what can you say, standpoints out of it, because it is diverse in many ways. You can interpret it in many different tendencies and many different what can you say, directions. This is true. It's not just something atheists or Christian haters they say about the Bible, or critics who haven't read it enough or hadn't got the light in their hearts. This is the problem. The religious people, I'm talking about Christians now, but it's the same I have seen among Muslims, and I believe is also present with the Jewish communities. I mean, the big three religions who believe in the text and the book. Whenever they see the light, they believe that everybody who's reading it differently is a devil, is a Satan, is someone who's just trying to divert people from the truth that they have seen. And it doesn't occur to them that they might be reading it differently than others because the text is allowing that. The text itself is giving many possibilities when you read it in context and you read the translations upon translations upon translations. And this scholar, he said that in his lecture. He said, well, there are some words we have translated from Hebrew and they are very difficult, and it's a vague and difficult translation to the modern European languages. So he already there admits for himself, and I know that from the Bible critical people who have studied those texts, they say big problems, big issues in, but the people who are believers, fundamentalists, they can't see it and they want to see it. They just we have seen the light, we love the Christ, the rest doesn't really matter. And they get into big trouble. They get also in big trouble in how they regulate their feelings towards others. Love and hatred become very very strong because it's all pushed down under the surface. They wanna like be looking like so generous and welcoming and all that. They want you to get into that big open gate, as I've discussed with one priest once, and all in respective tones. I never go saying anything bad to them, because for me it's not about winning the argument, it's about opening perspectives for myself as well. Maybe I have missed something, so I want to hear the argument the other way. And so I told this priest once, say, you believe in this type of church. He came from an American Baptist church, and very, very nice people. I said, and you say the only thing that's important is the belief. If you go into that faith, it's the same the Muslims says, by the way. They say you just believe in there's no one God but God and Muhammad is prophet, that's all. But when you enter, you suddenly find yourself that you're on a ground where it's not good enough anyway. Because, oh no, don't follow the Sufis because the Salafis are the more righteous. The Salafis, oh no, they've gone astray in their very surface-like oriented belief in the text without any deeper understanding, and so on and so on. And the same you find with the Christians. And so, because this priest was a very kind and nice Christian, I talked to him and we have a friendship in a way. And as I told him, it's not enough. When you enter the door of the belief in the faith, in the Christ, let's say that, you will be met immediately with the groups who does not like that you are in another group. I say, if I joined your group, I will be I will I will be like opposing other groups as false and wrong, and I cannot really interact with them or feel that they are saved as well. So you see, it's a deeper problem than we think with religion. And then comes a problem of how it's used politically. And it was very enlightening to hear this scholar talking about the end of times. I can see the signs. Like I'm a spiritual, religious man in my own individual way, meaning I believe in the one God without any other proclamations, and that this God has had his people, chosen people from Abraham and so on. But when it comes to the texts, you can see signs in them, but you have always to be aware that they can be used and are used politically to gain power, economically to gain wealth, to manipulate people into doing things and not doing things, spreading differences and sometimes hatred among the other religious people and among themselves as well. And so it's like a fire eating itself up from within. And I don't want to be part of all that because it doesn't make sense if you want to believe in the God. It doesn't make sense to reject the God either, the existence of a creator, of someone who has put this into motion, because there's so much logic to it, so much science behind it, so much accuracy, both in the universe and in our life, and in biology, in everything around us, surrounding us, and inside us. It all shows and tells the brain that this is a maze, yeah, it's a hidden deity, yeah, but uh, it's there. We feel it, we know it, we understand it, and many people are speaking about these things. Luckily, we are in a time where the atheism, in its extreme measures, is not taking the same hold on people as it did before, by telling them believing in a deity or a god or a spiritual power is something of the past stupidity. It actually isn't and will never be. Faith will always renew itself. That's why I like religious people, looking at them from another perspective, because they keep renewing the spirituality and faith among other people. So you see, I am like in a duality here, trying to balance, always balance between right and left, up and down, the middle and the edges. And I believe that's the golden middle way, always to be critic, but to see the positivity in the same and one and same issue. We hate war, but war has its very important role, uh, exactly as we know it has. It renew people's minds, it brings people together, it makes things sometimes fresher afterwards. And it has a lot of sacrifices, tragedies, problems that we hate it so much. But it has a role, and this role is obviously important for some reason. I don't know why that creator or God or humans have made it like that. I don't like it. I don't like the idea, but I can see it from that perspective. So just because I go and listen to religious people that and are critical, That doesn't mean that I hate everything they say or I don't see the positive signs. There are some strong signs in that Bible that, um, well, we are maybe approaching some times where big changes are underway because some of the signs are revealing themselves very strongly. I know that from the Muslim faith as well, where a lot of some of the Quranic verses and especially the hadiths, the prophetic words of Muhammad, they were saying things about the times to come that have been revealing themselves time after time. And so they are in a way true, and they are showing us the way to something bigger, something stronger, something deeper is happening, all surrounding the Holy Land, Jerusalem, and the faith of these three religions, the Jewish faith especially, and they are at their climax. I mean, who can oppose a Jew today? Who can criticize the Israelis? Who can say anything against also the Muslims, let me say? I know there's a lot of hatred and problems with the Muslims and surrounding them and against them, but who can really criticize any of these three religions? So they are having their climax, and the Christian religion is spreading more than ever all around the world. And this is a sign this theologian also showed from the Bible that um, they will hear the message of God. The whole world, all nations will get to receive the word of God. They will know it, they will listen to it. And so we are in those times where things are very different than before. So these signs are not to be ignored at all. But how does that affect us politically? And then he told me that he had a discussion with a person who has a radio program. He is also a religious scholar. And he said the same thing as you are, that it's dangerous to carry a faith and then make it green light for political uh, decisions, for a way of acting towards other people that is against the values you're carrying. You're carrying the values of love and mercy and compassion as a Christian, he would say. But how would you carry them if you suddenly accept hurt and harm coming to other people just because they are in the way of fulfilling a prophecy? That's very dangerous and very wrong. And that can't be the intention of God, to make us do evil things just to make a good thing happen. This is not what we know is God's way in any of these religions. It's the humans who turn it like that. And you know that if you listen to the mysticism in Judaism as well, they would also oppose these kind of atrocities and say the fearness of God, the love of God, the following of the text, the philosophy behind the religion should be the opposite. You should always strive and do the best for anyone and love everyone you see. At least don't hate them, because you should hate yourself first. This is one of the deepest messages that I love in the messages of Christ and the Messiah, because he had this very, very unique and revolutionary way of speaking. And the same goes for Muhammad. And it's such a shame that Christians largely have just closed their minds of hearts in listening to understanding and having lectures about the Muslim faith. I understand why. I myself had a big quarrel and breakup with the Muslim Islamic both thinking and groups, because there are also some things that can be shocking and not so good. But to understand that not everything that this guy said is to be hated or to be rejected. Just because he doesn't accept Christ as the God doesn't mean he didn't bring a message of a lot of good things and a way of life that actually flourished and gave people a big civilization. So I told this theologian when he showed the timeline from the Old Testament, the Jews, and then comes the time of the New Testament, and then the later times, and he says after the later times, the Christ will resurrect and come back, and then the new 1,000-year kingdom will begin. But the signs of that is that the Jews has to come back to the homeland, and there will be war around Jerusalem. He mentioned a lot of signs. So when I talked to him later, I said, what a shame that you emphasize so much about the Jewish history and the son of Abraham, the Isaac, of course, but you forget and tend to overlook the same Bibles talk about Ishmael and his big um, revelation. It's like the Bible itself is saying he will make the sons of Abraham big people, and so the Arabs became the big people at one time. They are so hated by many of the Jews and ignored by many of the Christians. And at the same time, when you look at the Muslims and you try to understand many of them, they have the same hatred for the other groups and not really trying to understand the Bible or reading the signs that they share. There are so much they share, but also a lot they differ on. But you see, it's almost so easy to see it's so much one-sided. So you have to give yourself up, and part of your brain, this is my point. All this talk, and I'm giving a lot of small examples here and there to say that it's easy to give up yourself for a faith or a group or a way of living or a way of understanding a Bible, a Quran, a text, whatever you are believing in. But you cannot do that without shutting part of your brain down and part of your knowledge and understanding. Or maybe you are ignorant altogether. That's the worst thing we have on earth these days. So many ignorant people. They don't know anything beyond their small, limited world and their small lives. It's like Kierkegaard said, people living on the surface of the shallowness of life. So dangerous, so problematic. And there are so many of them that they not only drown the intellectual, clever people who try to balance between views and opinions and ideas, philosophies and religion, they kill them. They become people who are so hated because they complicate things. And when you complicate things, humans per se hate you, turn away from you, do not listen to you. You have to say one thing, one message at a time. That's what the populistic politicians understood. And we've been living under populistic democracies for 3 decades or more, because they understood that maybe my mind is complicated, but I have to relay my message so simple, so one-sided, that the group that believe in that, they will just follow me and give me their votes, and I can go in and do whatever I like, being the representative, earning my money, getting my connections, growing into the post, and they can go fuck themselves or do whatever they like in their own simple-minded way. So even those politicians laugh at their followers inside their head, but they know they can manipulate them because they're easy. And so when people listen to you and say, you're too complicated, well, you're on one side saying, I'm a critic of religion, but you're not an atheist. And you love God and can see the signs in the Bible, but you're not a religious Christian or a religious Muslim. How can that be? Where can you live? Which group do you belong to? I belong to a very, very small group of no group. And that's why it's so hard for people like me to be on earth and to walk around the world. And I find sometimes inspiration in some of these great individuals that has lived throughout history, but I also find them in the religious prayers. I'm not anti-religious at all, but I don't like the way religion is conveyed and the manipulation that's happening inside it, and the way hatred become that hidden way of thought towards everybody that doesn't follow you or that shake up your mind. And the funny thing is, that's the first thing that Christ did. He went into the temple and he shook up their beliefs. He said, where are you going? You are doing stuff in this temple that should not be happening. And he showed them some of the texts that were pointing out that what God is saying is not what they are doing, and so on. And the first reaction is they threw stones at him and threw him out. And that's what people keep doing. Maybe today more psychologically than and online. If it is online, you will get so many hatred messages and you so many messages of people conveying your stupidity and your lack of conviction or whatever. And that's the easiest way, because there are so many ignorant people who cannot make things complicated because otherwise they can't live in it. It's not easy to be a small follower of a small group and just wait for the Messiah or Christ to come, or wait for the Jewish king to come, or wait for the Mahdi to come, and then listen to somebody telling you that maybe you are manipulated into believing things that's not happening or doing things that shouldn't be. Like if you take these atrocities that these people from the Hamas and Hezbollah group they did in October 7th against the Jewish population, it shook me up deeply, because I know some of the ideas these people are having and have been carrying for so long, and they're also trying to make things happen, and they're doing it by killing small girls, women, people. That should be forbidden altogether, and it is forbidden. And I understand the Jewish reaction. And at the same time, if you look at the Jewish communities and the way they are conveying their hatred towards the Palestinians because they're holding on to the land and to their place, it's not easy. And that's why it's a complicated thing that people would say in the end only a higher force or power will solve it. It's not going to be the stronger. I know the Arabs, they are so stubborn, and whenever you put one group down, another group will show that will keep opposing the taking of the Palestinian land. And the same goes for the Jews. They are so clever, and they are also so stubborn that they want their holy land back as it's promised to them in the Bible and the Torah. And so God will help them get it back and have the strength to live it in it and be the kings in it. And this was what's happening now. And now we have this theologian, back to that story. He is observing these things. He is a pro-Zionist Christian, and he believes in a way in the Old and New Testament that differ and oppose to other type of Christians from his own theologian ideas. So he's a Lutheran. There are other Lutheran priests I have spoken to earlier in my time here, and they would say we oppose this way of thinking and this way of interpreting the Bible and this way of saying that they should support God's chosen people. But wherever you go, he's observing what's happening, and I'm observing, and many others are observing too, and we know we can't do anything about it. We have to wait for a bigger revelation, a stronger force, something to happen to see what's gonna be the end of it. So I believe in both being critic and in understanding that these holy books have messages in them that are very, very important to follow and listen to. So basically, being a critic is so important nowadays. At the same time, you have to be on one side or another in your choices of ideas and belief and sides. And for individual people, it's always back to what is truth, beautiful, and right. It's not about, I belong to this group, I have to support them forever. Or I am part of this religion, I have to stay in it forever. I am part of this political movement, that means whatever they do is the right thing. This is blindness when it comes deep down to it. And so I was very inspired by this lecture, and at the same time critical. And I was very later reflecting on how some of the people who were there reacted to, because none of them had this critical view. It was like a group of supporters who came to listen to something they know or want to know more about, but all with head nodding, understanding, believing, nothing more. So they don't want anybody to shake that up. It's a danger, a threat, a problem. It's something that will make them use too much energy if they have to revisit and revise what they are thinking and believing. So I am that type of person who prick to these issues and make points by questions or by talks and dialogues, because it's so important for us all, wherever we stand, on which ground we ever stand as a religion or group or theology, ideology, political ideas, to be able to see perspectives, also the other sides, goals and fights. And that's why humans stay and keep weak on this earth. Now we have this Artemis mission. That's a big puzzle for me. I think they have a hidden mission in that. I don't believe that if it's like that, it's crazy that they are just taking the tour around the moon and back, paying all these millions, billions, and sending these astronauts just to turn around the moon and back. That's not something to be wished for just for itself when you have people starving and hungry and in big trouble in on earth. We could have used these millions and billions to show some kind of compassion, to build up societies, to help resolve wars and conflicts. This money could go to some better work that will benefit the humans more than just clapping at four astronauts turning around the moon and back. Well, I believe they must have had some hidden mission, something they are not telling us. Uh, Otherwise, why should they send them up just to make a show off that they can turn around the moon and come back and that it can be dangerous and we're trying to test the limits of that? Uh, what's the purpose of that? And what did they find? A black side of the moon with more craters, and they're still looking for more water than before in the dust of the moon. That doesn't make sense to send all these equipment and people and millions up, but I believe it can happen. That stupidity is also widespread today among nations and politicians and organizations who are just racing. The Chinese send a drone up there, landed on the back of the moon. We want to send people who can turn around the moon. And the next will be some other nation, maybe India is next, trying to send something new up there. But with what purpose? We want to colonize the moon, I understand that, but we should do it after we finish and when we finish of the starvation and problems that we're having here on earth, and resolving the corruption and ignorance that is flowing over like a flood among humans in millions and billions around the world who do not know anything about anything, cannot think for themselves, cannot see perspectives, cannot change their mind. They don't know how to dig deep into any problem or issue. They maybe don't have a target in life, nothing to organize them or nothing to live for. We need to solve these problems before we show off towards each other as nations that, well, you can send a drone, I can send a man, you can send a dog, I can send a horse or whatever. So it's still for me a perplexing issue that they have sent 4 people around the moon just to show that, well, we can do it, it's dangerous, but we can turn around the moon and back. There should have been more to it, but maybe they had a secret mission to plant something up there or to check up on some satellites or whatever they wanted to do. They want to tell anybody and make it as a decoy. I hope at least it's that, because that will make more sense geopolitically than than just wanting to do this mission that costs so much, which we could do later on when we have the better technology without the big risks. So why the rush, in other words? So you see, it's difficult to think today with all that's going on, and it's hard to understand. It's harder to understand with all the both fake news and distorted media picture. And so most people will just sit for hours watching and clapping and seeing some shallow news without digging deeper into what it means, because that can be dangerous. That could be a shake up for their own systems. Anyhow, to sum up on this issue on faith and belief and how it affects politics, I believe all the faith that we have on earth have an effect on politics. If you look at India, you see that the way they believe affects their way they do things and their politics. And because they have had this national spiritual, what can you say, rebuilding in their own society, that has given its fruits and effects in the way that people are working towards their society, the way they are stepping out of conflict zones without escalating them, having the wiser way of looking at things between nations, not to tell to the one nation without also keeping an open relation with the others. It was brilliantly done by Modi when he went and visited Israel, and at the same time had a very great appeal to the Iranians so they could open up the strait so he could get his gas and oil. And he kept fairly good relations with the Chinese, even though it has been difficult because of the troubles they have, and avoided all the what can you say, provocations that happened on the Pakistani side. So they are, in my opinion, right now doing well in reflecting their faith and religion and spirituality on their society. And so they are now building chips and rockets, and they are very good at some sciences that the world really need. And people are looking to India as a new upcoming big, huge power. If you look at the Muslim world, it's eating itself up alive, even though it has many great resources to build up and to be nations of peace and building goodness. The rich countries are spending their wealth on things that matters less than others, and they are building parks for amusement before they build a national and build international educational level and understanding that could reflect on their society in a very positive way. Uh, how many do the Arabs have that can work on, how many, I mean, laboratories and places to work on great science and discoveries? None, or very little. We have in the Arabic world people who are clever and very, very brilliant, and they are taken out by the big agencies in NASA and other places, ESA, to work. They are like being headhunted so they can work on these programs that the Europeans or Americans or Russians they have. So their great minds are being a benefit for other countries than their own. While these very rich Arabs, they're spending millions on buying gold cars and um, higher towers than the neighboring countries. This is a deflection of what should have been the true identity of their faith. And then you can say, well, that reflects their faith, but it doesn't, because if you look at it reflects how they understand their faith and religion. But if you look at the 1,200 years that passed, they have been different, and they've really been reading their faith in a different light, so that they have built that golden society we had in the Middle Ages, where Europe, the Christian faith, were in darkness because of the way they read their faith. So faith has a big impact. This is my point. The way you read your faith and your mind accepted, and the way you deal with it has a big impact on how you build your society or destroy it from within. Um, and so goes for the same goes for the Jewish communities. After a few thousand years, they have finally built up a force and a greatness and an understanding, so they can be one of the top nations on earth today. This is their time, their golden time, the Israeli age we are living in. And so it shifts. It doesn't stay like that forever. It depends on the people who are carrying that faith, carrying those politics that follows the faith, and the way they look at their role in the world. Are they builders or destroyers? Are they just haters who want to, what can you say, make all the people submit as slaves to their will? Or are they trying to build the nations up with independence and brilliance and enlightenment? And that's always the difference, and gonna be the difference. No matter what faith you're carrying, it's the way you reflected on life and society that will bring you forward or take you into the deep pit backwards. One last issue I want to talk about now, about faith and belief in heaven. I heard the famous Sadhguru from India, which I like and respect and find very inspiring. The Sadhguru is a big guru in India who has really made a great impact with his Isha Foundation on the Indian society and rebuilding spirituality among the Indian people. He has been a great force, in my opinion, that also helped the political changes in India towards what I spoke about a little bit earlier of this national-wide building. But I hear him sometimes say things that I, of course, find he say a lot of good things, great things that everybody should listen to and try to understand. He's a wise man, also the way he speaks, but he can say some things sometimes that doesn't really reflect how it is. He said lately that the biggest problem or poison that people have in life, or the worst thing, the worst enemy, or something like that, is the belief in heaven. I understand what he's trying to say, but it's not like that, really. And I will say why and end up this talk by that. He says that belief in heaven makes people like lazy, and they do not care about their lives, and this is a side effect. And also that it can be a poison for people, because they will turn towards away from this life and living it. But if you look deeper, you will see that they have the same belief in heaven in the Indian society. It's just in a different way. They believe that even if you get reborn to this earth, you can be in a better place that could feel like heaven. Lesser problems, more success, everything going your way, because you were patient and good in the former life. That's what I understand. So this is also a kind of heaven. If you look the three major religions who proclamate heaven, all the prophets of the Old Testament, about seeking God, His mercy, and the eternal life. You find it in small measures in the Old Testament, and the Jews would say, well, it's because God wants us to focus on this life, and we will be His chosen people in the next one. And the Christians, they have it a little more. They speak about heaven on earth mostly, kind of godly kingdom where the sheep and the lion would live together, and people will be so peaceful that nobody will fight each other, and so on. Could also be a version of a kind of heaven. And then you have the Muslims, who are the Islamic and the Muslim faith is the most explicit on the ideas of heaven in great details. It keeps repeating the idea of people who live up to God's wishes and are righteous and good will get that promised heaven. Those who can sacrifice for the face of God, and so on. So what's the problem in that? When I hear the respectful Sadhguru talk about the problem in believing in heaven, I see there are some things lacking, because humans can be poisoned by a false hope. I understand that. It is a false hope that can drive us to not do anything, not change our life, not do things better, not reflect on our situation. This is what philosophers also said in the old days. If you always keep waiting for perfection and the hope in a better world, and also that you want this world to be better than it is. When we come to this world as kids, we live in a dream. It's like we think everything is beautiful and nice and flowery and funny. But when we start growing up, we start feeling in different way that this world is also crashing in on us with its heaviness, problematic sides, challenges, difficulties. We start feeling the pain, and we start changing, and we start realizing that, well, those kids' dreams were not the reality. And this is maybe what he's trying to say, that we are not benefiting from having to live in those hopes of heaven and a great fantasy of how we want life to be, instead of dealing with it as it is, understanding how it is, its cruelty, difficult sides, animalistic nature of humans, suppression, misjudgment, but also that we have the power to do something about it, to keep it good if it's good, make it better if it's not, change it from worse to better. But saying that it's a poison to believe in a heaven, it's actually what I have lived of pains and others have lived of pains, something that's not understandable, because the belief in heaven actually makes you and believe in a resurrection, in a better place. Imagine you've been suffering all your life because of, kids who've lost their eyes or hands and feet in a war and still living. Something has been taken from them. Mothers who lost their sons, fathers who died and left their families, people who had wealth and it was taken from them, and so on. People who never got the chance to live wealthy. What would all these people say and mean and do? Should they just think, okay, well, a shame, the dice were cast and you didn't get it, the other guy got it. You will suffer while the other is living the pleasure. That doesn't seem at all, and according to the universe, how it's built meticulously on a scientific notion, and everything has an explanation hidden or revealed to us. The social life doesn't seem following that plan. And you either blame God for it or you say it's all coincidence. But you can also say that God, because he understands creator understands that things are not as they should be, and people get suppressed, even though they are ordered not to suppress each other and hate and so on. And some people they lose a lot, physically, mentally, economically, whatever they wanted, didn't get it, and so on. What's the reward for these people? Well, the message from the big three religions is, are you patient? Are you believing? Are you living in the true hope without becoming lazy? Then you will get a reward that's bigger than you, and things will be greater. So you have something to look forward to for all the things that have been taken from you. Now, one problematic side about this I have seen in the religious practices is that they are sometimes used to make people accept their misery. And that's the bad thing about it, because everybody should claim and keep claiming some sort of equality, some sort of basic coverage of needs for health, for care, for economical needs, and so on. Everybody should have access to a better education. Every person with ability and disability should have some kind of dispensation, and so on. We should keep claiming that as humans, and we shouldn't let these religious words of, oh, keep patient and God will reward you, while the others are living in their riches and nobody of the poor is doing anything about it. This has been a big problem about the idea of heaven. I understand that aspect of it because it's been taken as an abuse. You imagine this imam or priest or rabbi is in coordinates with these rich layers of people, what time, no matter what time or place it is. And they keep saying to the poor people who have nothing, they should be patient and wait for God's salvation and accept that God has not given them, while they can see that the rich people are taking more and more of their land, of their wealth, of whatever they have. And these religious people who should work for justice and work for people's access to more equality and sharing, they will just let the rich have more and the poor live with less, saying, be patient. Be patient, but fight and struggle to change the conditions. That's important. But if you can't, or something happened, a destiny of a kind like an accident, or you lose someone dear, then you are patient and you hope for the better eternal life, where all the misery is what can you say, wiped away from your memory and from your mind, and you can't remember it anymore, and you live eternally happy and good, and everything is fulfilled. What's the wrong idea in that? That's the most profound and beautiful idea that religion has given us, that do not despair of what you lose in this earth. Do not feel lost and abandoned if you feel that somebody has got it all and you got nothing, or some people you see have nothing and others have it all. God see everything, and things will change. There will be a place where these people who have lost will be given, and the last ones will be the first. And you have this notion very strong that the people who get a lot in this world will be the last ones that God will look at, and He will give the others before them. He will help them on. He will make their life sweet. This is beautiful because that's part of what we want from a true creator, to say, I will compensate. I know, I follow, I'm wise, I understand, and don't despair. Compensation is just around the corner. Um, Earth is in one way, and my kingdom is another. This is a beautiful thought. Why should we put it away as poison? The poisonous problem in it is if it's been abused to make people not do what they should to make life righteous and good, more equal, more happy, more compassionate. This is a wrong turn in believing in heaven. The other wrong turn is to become lazy and say, well, I don't care. There is a heaven somewhere out there and we will get it, or it's promised to us, so all the others are losers, or so on. So there are some, of course, some poisonous ways you can use and abuse the idea of heaven, but in deep and its core philosophy, it's the only true hope and goodness that poor people who have nothing, who've been everything taken from them, who've been suppressed by some dictators, who've been put into prison, who've been killed, who've been shot at, and so on, accidentally, or whatever happens to people in this earth that's so dangerous and uncertain. The only certain thing that religion makes people really believe is there is a God, and this God will make things right. Because this is how life is created on a basis of science, meticulous, logical. You can explain it. You know how it's working. It's working according to something very brilliant. It's not coincidence. And Einstein said God does not play dice with the universe. Neither does God play dice with human lives and say, oh, I love these people. They are abusers, Machiavellians, narcissistic, and they're getting a lot of money out of it and a lot of riches. I love them. And all the others, good people, hardworking, good-minded, all they will be taken from them. Okay, that God is definitely not the one who is promising people the goodness afterwards. He would say, it's not like that. I gave you the freedom on earth and it's gone wrong. And I will put it right. And everyone who suffered in that process can look forward to a greatness of healing, compensation. What's wrong in that? That's a great thing that will actually be like a medicine for the hearts and minds of people with sorrows and sadness and the lack of so much in this life. There is not many people on earth who can say life has been fulfilling. If you take a woman in her young age and her dreams of what she wants to do or what kind of life she wants, and then if you ask her later, did that happen as you wanted it? And she would point out that it didn't happen as I wanted it. It happened somehow like I wanted it, or not at all. Or I'm satisfied, but it wasn't exactly my dream. And so can many of us say. So what's the compensation? Is it all lost? That's it? You are either the small lucky group of 2% with all the riches, and even those have their big problems. And they don't always feel happy or satisfied, and they feel a big void. So they could also complain and say, well, it didn't satisfy me just being rich because it had its problems and troubles. And I had a mother who is problematic, or I had some friends, and so on and so on. They can also complain, even the rich people with power. So it's very few people who could say earth and life on it is satisfying. And so the notion of heaven in the faith of the big three major religions, but also in the Eastern ones, who believe in a kind of resurrection to this life, or a kind of reincarnation, as they say, as a better human being. This is a dream we all carry, that when I come back in the next life, or when I enter the next life after death, it's sweeter, a dream fulfilled, nicer, filled with goodness and love and care, and no sadness, no sorrow, no problems, no mistakes, and so on. A lot of great things happening. This is, in my opinion, a great thing that saves us from not only despair, but from doing wrong as well. So that's what I wanted to reflect on today from some events I've been like following and watching and looking at.